A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session on programming for problem solving course. In our previous session, we discussed passing arrays as parameters to functions. Whenever we want to pass an array or elements from the array as parameters to functions, we have two different options we said. Either we can pass the individual values or we can pass the whole array, the complete array as a parameter to function. So passing individual values, again it is of two types. We can either pass the values or we can also pass the addresses. Okay, so that complete phenomenon, how we are going to deal with the individual elements inside an array, or how we're going to deal with the complete array, all those things we discussed in our previous class. In today's session, we'll be discussing a simple concept, the standard library functions. Okay, standard functions are library functions. So many of these standard library functions, with our first practical class onwards, we are discussing like your printf and scanf. They are also examples for standard library functions. So in general, whenever we are saying standard library functions, we are not providing the code for those standard library functions. We just need to do the declaration and calling. The definition, it is already done by the developers. It is already done by the C developers, we can say. The persons or the team of persons who are responsible for the development of this C language, they have written the code for these standard library functions. In general, whenever we are using a function in our C programming, okay, whenever we are using a functions in a C program, we have to do three things for the function, isn't it? Function declaration, function call, and function definition. So before the call, we need to have two things: function declaration as well as function definition. If these two things we are not doing, simply what will happen, we are will be unable to use that function in our programming. So if it is a user defined function, we as a user, we are responsible for the complete functionality of user defined functions. So we have to do the declaration, we have to do the definition, and we have to do the calling. In these three things, the major part is function definition, where we are going to put the body for the function, isn't it? So the major part also we are doing, the declaration definition, the minor part also we are doing. Okay, in case of user defined functions. But if it is a predefined function, okay, if it is a predefined function, the persons who are responsible for development of the C language, they have already coded the definition. They have already coded the definition in header files. Header files or library files, what we are including in our program, those library files or those header files will have the code for standard library functions, will have the definition for standard library function. That is the reason why we are not doing the definition part for library functions. When we are using printf, scanf, we just know the syntax of how to use that printf and scanf functions into our program. Rather, what we are not doing, we are not doing the definition for those functions, those library functions. In that similar way, we discussed the string manipulation functions, isn't it? In your second unit, we discussed a concept called string manipulation functions, where we are doing different operations on strings. And in order to do all those operations on strings, again, we are not having any fixed operators. So how we have done? We dependent on the string manipulation functions. Again, these string manipulation functions are nothing but your library functions, standard functions. Okay. So why we are calling them as library functions or standard functions, in the sense because the code associated with those string manipulation functions is available inside a specific file. isn't it? We just need to include that specific file into a specific header file into our programming in order to make use of all those, in order to make functional all those predefined functions. Okay, all those concepts we discussed over there. So string manipulation functions, all string manipulation functions are also examples for predefined functions or standard library functions. Okay, there is another category of functions we have, and we also call them as predefined or standard library functions. Okay, they are the mathematical functions basically. Okay, here you quickly read out all these points whatever we have over here. So the first point, if you see, yeah, C language, it provides a rich collection of standard functions whose definitions have been written and are ready to be used in our programs. Already I just said, as I said, the definitions to these standard library functions or normal library functions we are not including into our program. The definition, it is already written and available inside the header files. So just include those header files into our program in order to use the standard functions into our program. Okay, so that is the second point. If you read, to use these functions we must include their function declarations into our program. These function declarations are generally found in header files, where we have the declaration and definitions in the sense inside the header files. Okay, so instead of adding each declaration separately, a simple statement with header file can be included on top of our program. So simply what we are doing, because we are including hash include stdio.h file. So this stdio means standard input output header file will have all the functions associated, I mean all the functions required for performing input output operations. So input scanf function, output printf function, the code for these two functions is again available inside the header file, that is stdio.h. So that is the reason why in every program we are including stdio.h. Okay, stdio means standard input output header file. So by including that standard input output header file, we are making our scanf and printf functions functional. Okay, so what is that? What we are writing, the first statement into our program, hash include. So I will quickly go to my whiteboard to explain this one. So just zoom a bit. Okay, now here I will write that statement. What we are writing, hash, then followed by the include preprocessor directive, then here stdio dot h. So over here this stdio dot h stands for standard input output. If you see std for this standard, then I for input and this O for output. Dot H stands for header file. Dot H stands for header file. Okay, so basically these header files will be hidden in nature. Okay, so if you want to make them as unhidden, you can do it. Okay, so quickly go and see in our slides. So we set this mathematical category of math functions are also a category under this standard library function. So several standard library functions are available for mathematical calculations. So whatever mathematical calculations we perform, like finding the absolute value, finding the round figure value, and finding the power, square root, all these things to perform, all these are nothing but your mathematical operations. To perform all these things we have a set of library functions, and those set of library functions we call them as mathematical library functions, and these mathematical library functions are included in any of these two files. In some compilers they are included in math.h, and in some compilers they are included in stdlib.h. So mathematical library, math.h library file, and standard library. Here stdlib stands for standard library file. Standard library, and h stands for header. H stands for header file, standard library header file. Okay, so in any of these two files you can find all the mathematical calculation functions. Okay, so in that, the first type of functions, I mean mathematical calculation functions, are absolute value function. Finding the absolute value. We may be aware of this absolute value in our mathematics. Absolute value is nothing but the positive value regardless of the sign what it is having. Okay, so if you are finding the absolute value of a negative number, you will always get a positive number, and same thing if you are finding the absolute value of a positive number, you will get the positive only. So absolute value means always a positive value regardless of its sign. Okay, so these functions will return the absolute value of a number. An absolute value is a positive value of the value regardless of its sign. Even if you pass positive value or negative value, irrespective to its sign, you always get a positive value. So we have like three integer functions and three floating point functions in order to find the absolute values. Okay, integer functions, if you see, ABS, LABS, LLABS. So we have integer, long integer, long integer. So for normal integer we use ABS. This is for integer. Okay, and LABS stands for long integer. Long integer. So these categorize, if you are good in data types, if you have studied about data types, you will understand this thing. We have, I mean, short also we have, there is no function provided in order to convert the short value into absolute value. We have only for integers, that is absolute ABS function, and for long integers LABS, and for long integers LLABS. Likewise, we have the function types. Long ABS for finding the absolute value of a long integer. So quickly see the syntax of these functions. So ABS for uh, integer parameter, and LABS will take long integer parameter, and LLABS will take long integer parameter. So if you see over here, ABS, it is taking integer type of input and returning, this is my output, isn't it? This direction, we said every function will give the output. And how we recognize a function in the sense, by this set of parentheses. If you have after a keyword, if you have set of parentheses, or after an identifier, if you have parentheses followed by a semicolon, we consider that thing as a function. In our programming, we consider that thing as a function. So here ABS is my keyword as well as identifier, and ABS is followed by two parentheses, okay, set of parentheses, open brace and closing brace, and after that we have the semicolon. So this indicates ABS as a function. So the function input we generally give between the parentheses. So over here it is int. That means my absolute value function will take integer value and returns integer value. Same thing for LABS, long absolute. Long absolute will take long integer and returns long integer. Okay, input is long integer, and output is also long integer. So then we have LLABS, long absolute. Long absolute will take long integer as input and returns long integer as output. So whenever you want to convert an integer negative value into positive, or whenever you want to find out the integer absolute value, simply go for ABS. And if you want to find out the long integer absolute value, go for LABS. And if you want to find out long integer absolute value, go for LLABS. So similarly, we have some real functions, floating point functions, real functions, for finding the absolute value of real numbers. And these real numbers, we have double, float, and long double. Okay, double, float, and long double. So simply if you see over here, all functions are prefixed with f, but suffix is different. Okay, if you are finding an absolute value for a double number, if you're finding the absolute value for a double number, simply go for this FABS. Here you can see FABS is my function name, which takes the double value as an input and returns the double value as an output. Okay, so if you are finding the absolute value of a double number, simply go for FABS. Similarly, if you want to find out the absolute value of a float, if you want to find out the absolute value of a float number, go for FABS F, suffix with F as well. FABS F. Okay, FABS F will return the float value as output and takes a float value as input. Here you can see float value input and float value output. Float value input it is taking and float value output it is giving. Similar to that one, if you have long double, if you want to convert or if you want to find out the absolute value of a long double, simply go for FABS L. FABS L will take the long double value as input and returns the long double value as output. So these functions we have to demonstrate with the help of a program, C program. How these functions will work, that we need to demonstrate. So simple, I will not go with all the functions. I will write a simple program only for one function, and rest of the things, for rest of the functions, the concept will be same. Okay, or else we'll practice one by one all. Simply I will shift my attention to the Dev CPP compiler, and I'm taking the empty source file, source document, and here I'm narrating my program. Here I'm writing my program. So simply start writing the program. How we do? Yeah, like this, stdio dot h. Then here, sorry, my mistake. Go to the end. Go to the end and take int main of void. So here you declare the variables. Any so first let us practice with integers. So int a equals to some 24 I have given, or minus 24 we will take. So now I want to find out the absolute value of this minus 24. So we can do in this way, int result, because whenever you are calculating the absolute value of an integer, we need to use the absolute function. Okay, so what I have to do, res equals to abs, absolute of a. Okay, a is holding minus 24, negative value. So now I will printf, print the value of that result. So result equals to percentile d, then comma, and you put that result res. So at the end put the semicolon. So now just save this, and yeah, it will ask me to enter the program name, that is test25.c. Hit enter, program got saved. Now you compile and see what error you will get. Okay, compilation, yeah, it is successful. Okay, so then run. Yeah, we are getting 24 instead of minus 24, we are getting 24. See here, this absolute abs function, it is also there in stdio.h function. So generally what we have to do in order to make those that function functional means we have to include, if absolute function is not supporting, then we have to include math.h header file into our program. So for me, as it is, as I said, Dev CPP is an advanced type of compiler. The abs function, it is also supporting, it is also there inside your stdio.h. So that's the reason when I executed the program without math.h, I got the output. But in normal compiler, if in a classical compiler like your Turbo C or any other traditional compiler, if you are using, if abs function is not there, if your abs function declaration is not there into stdio.h header file, then what we have to do, we must have to include this math.h header file in order to make this abs function functional. So likewise, then for long integer, okay, generally long integer, you can put the range or you can go with this same thing. So in order to store the result, we need long integer only, long int, and for calculating like this only we calculate, but you have to put, what you have to put here for long integer, labs. LABS is my function. Save it. Now you go compile. Yeah, compilation is successful. For long integer we are finding the absolute value. Yeah, you can check the range and you can put the proper value which is exceeding integer and below long integer, like that you can test. But for me, I'm minus 24, it is also in the range of long integer. From 0 always the range will start from 0, so I'm considering minus 24 only. For long integer, take another long integer. Here also, to store the result we need a long type of integer value. So then same thing here. Okay, so percentile LLD, I guess we'll see what we will get. Compile. Yeah, it is successful. Then run. Yeah, 24 only we are getting, as you can see. Okay, how the output will change over here, I mean how we are changing the convert. For long integer we have to put LD, for long integer we have to put LLD. Likewise we have to remember. Okay, then go to the next thing. What we have after demonstrating this absolute value function. Absolute value means always the positive value, remember this one. Then we have ceiling value. Okay, we have the ceiling value. I forgot to put the side heading over here. So ceiling value. Okay, a ceiling value is nothing but the smallest integral value greater than or equal to a given number. Okay, so the nearest but greater. We have to say nearest integral value but greater. Integral means whenever you are giving a fractional part, it will simply round up that part. Okay, it will simply round up that part and it will give the whole number to you. Okay, a ceiling value is nothing but it is a smallest integral value we are saying. Okay, if you give floating point, it will convert that value into integral value. So how that conversion takes place? Because if you have like 20 point, I mean generally we use this terminology in our bargaining. Whenever we go to a shop and if we buy something and if they are giving some improper price, okay, price tag, like something they say 289, so we used to ask them to make it round figure, uh, make it round figure and make it like 280 something like that. So round figuring in the sense just remove that extra content and make it a perfect figure. Okay, likewise, so a ceiling is the smallest integral value greater than or equal to a number. So ceiling of 3.0001, if you see, it will become 4. Okay, greater than or equal we are saying. So 3.0001, it is going to 4. So if you take the number sequence, so generally this is how we have number sequences, isn't it? Number series, or we can also call it as a number line. Okay, so number line, in between we have 0 over here, and left side to the 0 we have all negative numbers, and right side to the 0 we have all positive numbers. Okay, so what we said, a ceiling value is the smallest integral value greater than or equal to the given number. So if we take 3.0001, we are getting 4. So similarly, if you take 1.1, again it will go to 0. And if you take 1.9, it will make it as 1. See, always like this, always in the right hand direction, the value will move. Whatever value from 0 to 2, whatever value you take in between, it will always move to the right hand direction and it will give the perfect figure from this number. Okay, from the nearest integral value or smallest integral value we can say. Likewise, so ceiling of minus 1.9, we got minus 1.9, and ceiling of plus 1.1, it is again making it as a round figure to 0. Okay, so always remember this one. When you draw the number line, it will take the value, nearest integral value, in the right hand direction. Nearest integral value in the right hand direction. Remember this one. So ceiling values functions, and these ceiling value functions, we don't have integral and floating point. We have only floating point, because floating point numbers we are converting into integers. So if you take a double floating point number, so to convert the double number into a whole number or into an integral number, we use only ceil function, CEIL. Okay, we use CEIL function. If you want to convert a float number, floating point float number into integral number, then seal F. We use seal F. For long double, seal L. Like this, you remember. For normal double, seal. For float double, for float, seal F. For long double, seal L. Likewise. So seal of minus 1.9, we got 1.0, and seal of 1.1, we got 2. These things I have shown on the number line as well. Number line, all negative numbers will be having in the left hand direction, and all positive numbers we have in the right hand direction to 0. But seal value, whenever you take a seal value, so somewhere in between, if you take like from 1 to 2, if you take, you will get always to the nearest whole number, like this. Okay, so quickly we go and we demonstrate these things, sealing values on our compiler. So go to dev cpp compiler. So this program only, and I will take float values to practice with. You can try other. I'm taking float values to practice with. So float, okay, float value equals to, I'm taking 2.64 something like this. I have taken a value. So now result, I'm declaring result, also we need to declare. So that also we need a float, res. Okay, then result equals to, okay, which function I have to use in order to calculate the seal value? Seal function. Okay, seal function, but our variables are of type float, so we need seal f. Okay, seal float. So convert that val, because our value is in val variable, variable. So now 2.647 in the go to the number line. So 2.647, where it will go? 2.647, that will come in between 2 to 3 here, in between 2 to 3. Like if this is your 3.0, yeah, your 2.647, somewhere over here it will come. What is that value? 2.647. So here it will come 2.647. So what will be the seal of this particular value? Means the nearest integral value in the right hand direction. So this one, 3. Okay, 3.0, you will get 3.0. So quickly, let's just compile this one, and we are printing float value, so percentile f and result. Okay, so now save the program and compile the program. Compilation successful, and now run the program. See, we got 3.000. This, just forget about these zeros after decimal point, because we are printing a float value. That's the reason why we are getting these 6 zeros after decimal point. Just forget about these values, fraction parts, as it is not having anything. We need to consider only 3. So it has converted the 2.647, and it made it as the perfect value 3. So likewise, hopefully you understood this conversion process. Hopefully you understood. So now next we go and we see what other type of functions we have. So demonstration of seal function, sealing function is over. So now floor function. Floor function is opposite to sealing function. Floor function is opposite to sealing function. Previously we got the whole numbers or the integral numbers in the right hand direction, but now in left hand direction, opposite. So we can say a floor is the largest integral value that is equal to or less than a given number, equal to or less than a given number. So why we are saying equal? Why we are saying equal means, because if you take seal of 3, you will get 3 only, or if you take seal of 4, you will get 4 only. That's the reason we are saying equal to or greater, equal to or greater in case of seal, equal to or lesser in case of floor. Okay, so equal to or lesser means always lesser values will find in the left hand direction, isn't it? If you see all these values over here, all these values, 2 which is less than 1 which is less than 2, and 0 which is less than 1, and minus 1 which is less than 0, and minus 2 which is less than minus 1. Likewise, all values in this direction we have lesser values. So we get, whenever you perform floor function, you will get either equal value or lesser value. In case of ceiling, yeah, all these we are moving in this direction. As you can see on the number system, we are a number line, we are moving in this direction. So all values either equal or greater we will get, either equal or greater we will get. But in floor function, equal or lesser we will get. So again the same three functions. So over here you can see, as we said, equal or lesser. So 3.999, when you are calculating 3.999, you will get 3 only, because we need to get lesser. Okay, so here when you calculate floor of minus 1.1, you will get minus 2, because we need to get lesser. And floor of 1.9, lesser is 1, isn't it? So we will get 1 like this in the left hand direction. Always the integral value in the left hand direction, or whole number in the left hand direction, we can say perfect number in the left hand direction, we can say. So floor functions, they are also having three floating point functions, which converts the floating point numbers into whole numbers. Okay, so when you apply the floor function on double, use floor of double. When you apply the floor function on float, use floor f. When you apply the floor function on long double, use floor L. Likewise, we have three different functions. So quickly we go, yeah, over here you can see minus 1.1, nearest smallest integral value is minus 2. Nearest smallest integral value is minus 2, and 1.9, nearest smallest integral value is 1 for 1.9. So likewise we get the results. So quickly we go and we demonstrate these floor functions. So same thing, just what we have to do, yeah, here in place of seal f, you put floor f. So what it will do, previously we got the greatest value, greatest nearest integral value, but now we will get smallest integral nearest integral value. So 2.64, again we go and we check this one on the number line. So here, what is that, 2 point, what I have taken, 2.647. So 2.647, again here if I have 3.0, 2.647 will come over here, 2.647. So previously we got in the right hand direction the nearest integral value, but now we will get in the left hand direction the nearest integral value, or the smallest integral value, smallest nearest integral value, that is 2.0. Just go and check that one, whether we get 2.0 or any other value we will get. Compiler, it is successful compilation, then save. You can see we got 2.00 as I demonstrated over here. We need to get 2.0 I set, so we are getting the 2.0. So here I marked, I mean my arrow is pointing over here, so I said 2.0 we need to get, and that 2.0 we are getting over here. Hopefully you understood this floor function. Ceiling and floor opposite to one another. Then we have the yeah, demonstration is also over. Truncate, we have truncate function. So this is different for positive and negative numbers. Okay, the concept is different. I mean, truncate function concept is different from for positive and negative numbers. So simply remember, truncate function always in the direction of 0. Ceiling function always in the right hand direction, floor function always in the left hand direction, but truncate function always in the direction of 0. So for negative numbers, it behaves like a floor function. For negative numbers, it behaves like a, sorry, not floor. For negative numbers, it behaves like a ceiling function, and for positive numbers, it behaves like a floor function. So quickly you go and see the demonstration of this. So again, here we have three different types of truncate functions. For floor, for double, we have trunc. For float, we have trunc f. For long double, we have trunc L. So for negative numbers, we have to move in the direction of 0. So minus 1.1 in the direction of 0, minus 1 will be the nearest value. So 1.9 in the direction of 0, 1 will be the nearest value. So that if I demonstrate on number line, see I have a line. Okay, I have a line because I don't have the image over here, that's why I'm taking like this. So 0 is here, So where this minus 1 in the left hand side, minus 1, then minus 2 will come over here like this. So 1 will come over here, 2 will come over here. So my first value minus 1.1. So minus 1.1 in the sense somewhere over here, minus 1.1. So we have to move in the direction of 0. So we will move like this and we find minus 1 as our nearest integral value. So we will get for minus 1.1 the trunk value, we will get minus 1.0. Same thing for 1.9. 1.9 will be somewhere over here, 1.9 before this 2. Here I have 1.9. In which direction we have to move? In the direction of 0. So 0 is like this. So we have to move in this direction and we will get 1 over here. Hope you understood why we are getting minus 1.0 and 1.0. Hope you understood. So quickly we go and we demonstrate that one with this same value. So for if we calculate for float, that is TRUNCF, trunk float. Okay, trunk float, I'm performing this trunk operation on 2.647. So what will be the nearest value in the direction of 0 for positive? It is 2. Okay, so we need to get the same result, 2. Okay, we need to get the same result, that is 2. So I'm getting 2, as you can see, 2. So if I take negative, same value negative, what will happen? Same value negative, where it will go? Minus 2 point something. Okay, minus 2 point something we said, and that value will go somewhere here, minus 2.674 something. So again we have to move in the direction of 0. So we need to get minus 2. For this also we need to get minus 2. So compilation successful, then run. As you can see, we got minus 2. Okay, hopefully you understood this concept, minus 2. So this is finding the trunk value of a given floating point. Okay, then what we have after this trunk demonstration, we have the round value. The round value function, the nearest integral value. We are not going for in the direction of 0, in left hand direction, in right hand direction, not like that. The nearest integral value. So here 2.6 will become, the nearest integral will become 3. So 2.6, after that 3. So if you have 2.4, the nearest integral is 2. So it will become 2. So round function always checks for the nearest integral value. It will not check for in the direction of 0 or in the direction of in the left hand direction, in the right hand direction. It will not go in that way. It will simply always checks the nearest integral value. So simply, if this is your number line, and if this is your 0, and if this is your 1, if this is your 2, okay, here you have minus 1, here you have minus 2. So let us say if I am calculating the round value of 2.0, round value of 2 point, not 0, 2.6, round value of 2.6. So where that 2.6 will go? Yeah, here let us say we have 3. So this is 2.5. So somewhere here your 2.6 will come. 2.6. So which one is nearer? Whether 2 is near to this 2.6 or 3 is near to this 2.6. Obviously 3 is near to this 2.6. So this value will become 3. This value will become 3. Similarly, round off, if I say 2.4, again now here clearly it is it can be seen 2.4 will come here. This is 2.4. So 2.4, the nearest value is 2, not 3. It is 2. So you will get 2. So quickly we go and we perform this. Okay, for always it will look for the nearest integral value. Unlike ceiling, floor, trunk, it will always look for the nearest integral value. So first I will take 2.6 and then I will take 2.4 and I will show you the result. For floor, for round, again we have for double round, for float round F, for long double it is round L. Likewise, so we are dealing with float, so I will take round F. Okay, we are dealing with floats, so I am taking round F. So round F function, what it will do, it will find the nearest integral value for 2.6. It is 3. Okay, for 2.6 it is 3. So quickly go compile, hopefully it is successful, then run it. You can see 3 we are getting. For 2.6 we are getting 3 as the round value. So if I take it as 2.4, 2.4, the nearest integral value is what? The nearest integral value is 2. In this case it is 2. So we need to get 2. So run, yeah, you can see we got 2 here. We got 2. Similarly, we'll do more examples. So if I take 2.9, so what will be the nearest integral value? 2.9. Obviously it is 3. After 2.9 the nearest value will be 3. Okay, so we will get 3. You can see, run it, we got 3. 2.9 it is 3. So if I take 2.1, if I take 2.1, the nearest integral value will be, it is 2. Okay, it is 2. As you can see, we got 2 as the result. So like this you can perform different operations. Simply change the functions, change the integral values and try all the functions. Okay, so the next thing on my slide, yeah, demonstration is also over. Finding the power. Okay, finding power is same like how you do in mathematics. Okay, so we use finding power is nothing but if you want to raise 2 to the power 2, the value is 4, isn't it? 2 to the power 3, the value is 8. Likewise, finding power is this one. So if you have yeah 2, and if you want to find out the power power of 2 two times, then 2 power 2, like this you have to write. So over here, yeah, power function, we use a POW, power function, in order to calculate the power raised to another number. Okay, power of some number raised to another number. Okay, so here power of some number, that some number you have to specify over here. The first number you have to specify over here, and the second number raised to the number you have to specify over here. Suppose if you are saying x power y, x power y, so x you have to specify as the first parameter and y you have to specify as the second parameter. Remember this one. So power function, in this way it will work. If you are calculating 2 power 3, then how you do it? Yeah, here you can see 3 power 4 we did. 3 power 4 means 3 multiplied 3 multiplied 3 multiplied 3 4 times. 3 multiplied 4 times, so that is 81. 9 9 81, the result is 81. Like this you will get. So it is very simple. So again we have different power function. For double we use POW, for long double we use POLF, and for float we use POF. Okay, POF, POLF and POW likewise. So quickly we go and we demonstrate this one. So over here, yeah, I will take two variables now, x and y. X value I have taken 2.0 and y value I am taking like 3.0. So 2 to the power 3 I want to calculate indirectly. 2 to the power 3 I want to calculate indirectly, float result. And as I'm taking all float numbers, so here I need to put POWF, POWF, power f of value. So what value it should return? It should return like 8.0s, isn't it? 8.60s. So quickly compile it. It is saying value is undeclared. Okay, so yeah, over here we have to pass the first parameter, the base to the power function, that is x, and the power to the power function, that is y. X raised y times, that is 2 raised 3 times. Okay, so go compile, successful now, and run. As you can see we got 8. Okay, as you can see we got 8. Okay, so here in this way the power function will work. So if you take double over here and double over here also, so then no need to take this f over here. Okay, so simply put POW, it will give you the result. Compile, compilation, it is successful, then run, it is, you can see 8.60s. Okay, likewise the power function will work. It is very simple to understand. Power function. Then we have the square root function. Square root function. Square root is something like calculating the square root in your mathematics. Okay. Yeah. Always you have to be cautious whenever you are taking the square root of a number. You have to give only the positive numbers. And for yeah, powers also, it is better if you take all positive numbers. Okay. Uh, Yeah, when an error will occur, you just read this statement. It is an important statement. When you are calculating the power, yeah, my marker, where it is? Yeah, here it is. So, yeah, this second statement you just read. An error occurs when an error occurs if the base is nothing but x. Base is negative. If you are taking the base as negative and the exponent y as an fractional number, or we can say y as an what we call not whole number. Okay. Floating point number or real number. If you are taking the power as a real number, then an error will occur. Okay. Or if the base is 0 and the exponent is an not positive number, in that case what will happen? You will get an error. So quickly we go and we see the square root. So always try to find out the square root of a non-negative number, because if you take the negative number in square root, you will get an imaginary number, isn't it? Because imaginary numbers, okay, of course, maybe in your mathematics you can predict to some extent, but in your computers, your computer will get confused and basically you will get an error. So an error occurs if the number is negative. The square root functions, again, whatever number you want to find out the square root, simply pass as an input to this sqrt square root function. The function name, as you can see over here, sqrt for double. Give input double, take output double for sqrt. Same thing, sqrtf, give input float number, get output float number. sqrtlf, give input long double, take output long double, likewise. So if I am calculating for a double number, that is 25, when I am calculating the square root of 25, I will get 5.0. It will return 5.0. So quickly demonstrate that square root function, and this will be our last concept, and with that we conclude our session. Okay. So I'm taking double only. So instead of taking two variables, now as I need only one variable, which is I'm taking like value. So value, I'm taking 25.0. It is a double value, and I am calculating here sqrt, square root of value, square root of value, like this. Just save the program and compilation. Hopefully it is successful. Now what result we should get, because we stored 25 into val and you are calculating the square root of that 25, and you should get 5. Just see this, we got 5.000. So if I take triple one over here, if I take triple one, what will be the result? Square root of triple one, what is that? Maybe it is a decimal value, right? We'll see what value we will get. Yes, of course, we got 10 point something. Okay. If I take 1 to 1, if I take 1 to 1, the square root of 1 to 1 is 11, I guess, right? Yes. Quickly go and see whether we are getting the accurate result or not. Yes, we are getting 11 point all 6 zeros. So like this, based on your requirement in your logic processing, whenever you are writing the code, and if you want to do some sort of mathematical functions, just remember the standard library functions, whatever we discussed in today's class. We started with the absolute value functions, finding the absolute value irrespective to the sign, always it will return the positive value. Then ceil, always the nearest for a floating point number or for a real number, always the nearest integral value we are getting in the right hand direction. For floor, always we are getting the nearest integral value in the right hand direction. And for round, irrespective to the not unlike, always in the direction of 0 for round. and for truncate always in the direction of 0, and for round always the nearest value. Okay, then we discussed power function and square root function as well. Hopefully you understood the concept, today's class concept, and you do practice all these things. By practice only we will understand. It is simply watching the video or listening to the class, not doing any practice, not writing in notebooks. If you're going in that way, means nothing you will learn, believe me. So pay some attention and try to practice all these stuffs. Okay, thank you very much, students.